Welcome back. Well, South Africans are widely celebrated for their ability to always find a way. Babalwa Latsha is no exception. And when it comes to smashing barriers on and off the field, well, very few dare stand in her way. The Khayelitsha-born player who represented South Africa in both the 7s and 15s World Cup was the first player to South African women, I should say, to turn pro. And this season, she signed for one of the most successful teams in the English Premier League, the Harlequins. Prop joins us now via Zoom to give us an update of her time in the UK, as well as challenges facing women in rugby. Babalwa, a pleasure as always. Thank you. Whereabouts are you? I see a picture of yourself there.
Well, thanks for having me and good evening to you. I'm actually in Guildford, London, where I live at Harlequins.
Yeah, let's see your accent. Has it changed? It's been 6 months now. Time, pick it up.
I'm proudly South African. I don't think that's even a possibility.
Before we talk Harlequins, actually, maybe take us back to going pro to Spain and what came about. Like, where did that move come about? And also, what are those few months were in Spain teach you about what is possible in your career?
Well, I think the very first time I turned pro was when I played in 2020 in Spain for SDI, and that experience really opened my eyes to what was possible in the general scheme of things in terms of world rugby and where South African women's rugby could go. And I really sort of felt that there was so much more to be achieved by us, that is South African women's rugby. And I think what I've learned from my initial experience was really to understand our potential and to have the courage to want to live up to it, which then brought me into the World Cup, where Harlequins sort of spotted and reached out thereafter, and we got the ball rolling. And fast forward to now, I'm here at the Harlequins and plying my trade in London.
Yeah, who was responsible for that move? I mean, you mentioned that they've spotted you in the Rugby World Cup 2021, where you definitely had a good tournament. But who was responsible for that Harlequin move, I should say?
Well, the Harlequins themselves reached out to me and to SA Rugby as well, because we have to follow the correct channels in terms of playing abroad and etc. And that is where and how the conversation started, and we concluded things in February, which is when I first arrived here.
Yeah, your time in Spain was cut a bit short due to COVID-19. What was your immediate response? I mean, we're in lockdown, but where did you go?
Well, for the first couple of weeks, I actually went down a bit of a spiral. I was quite excited about the prospect of continuing to ply my trade with the Spanish team. But what brought me back was the fact that, the pandemic affected everybody all over the world. It wasn't just peculiar to me. And I sort of drew strength from that, in that we all experiencing challenges, or at least during that time. And I just had to come to terms with the fact that, COVID, just like anybody else, affected my career quite adversely.
Yeah, and did you give up at all? Was there a thought that maybe this was it? A few months of professional rugby and this was the end for me?
Giving up is never an option for me. I don't think I would ever have achieved as much as I have at this point in time had I have given up. I've had multiple opportunities to do that. Before I even became professional, before I even played for the Springboks. So true to Africanism and being South African, giving up is never an option.
Yeah, Harlequins, is it everything you've imagined?
Well, for the most part, it is. It's quite an enjoyable experience, highly competitive, high degree of professionalism, and a great environment for me to be able to hone my rugby skills even further and to be of great impact to the club, and to, more than anything, to prove that in South Africa we have an array of talent in terms of sports, especially rugby. We're extremely physical, again true to South African style of rugby. And my immediate hope is that through my performances and that of others who've also applied their trade abroad, we can have a lot more of South African women's rugby players come play their trade abroad.
Yeah, let's talk about that. The Bulls Daisies are the only team in South Africa currently offering what is similar. I'm sure it's not the same level as you there. Why do you believe that is, and what other challenges do you believe that South African rugby and where it is women's rugby right now compared to what you've seen in the rest of the world? But let's start with, why do you think the Bulls are the only ones at this stage in South Africa able to offer those professional contracts?
I think at this stage, South African women's rugby is at a point where it's growing quite rapidly. And there are people, organizations, businesses, and various sectors that are recognizing that. And I think, what the Blue Bulls have done is revolutionize women's rugby in totality by providing a high-performance, environment where women can be truly professional in plying their trade without having to worry about work and other forms of generating income. And I think that in itself is a game changer. But of course, in comparison to the rest of the world, the likes of England have been doing it a lot, for a longer period of time. And I think that because we are, a growing program, a developing program, it's absolutely amazing that, the Blue Bulls have taken the initiative, and kudos to the likes of Thando Manana and Lynn Cantwell, who've sort of been at the forefront of driving that. So, I think that as the tide rises, then so will other boats. So I'm looking forward to seeing what other unions in the country will do, and ultimately that will then affect our performances globally. It will sort of filter into the national setup, and we can then be able to compete with some of the best teams in the world, and even catch up at least to the rest of the world who have been doing it far longer.
Yeah, before I let you go, you're at Harlequins until the end of this month. Why is that? Have you had the conversation to extend your contract to maybe next season?
Well, I'm still here because my flight arrangements, etc., and those types of logistics have been arranged for the end of this month. We had the hope that we'd reach the final, which Exeter and Gloucester Hartbury have qualified for at this juncture. So this is purely by choice. I could have gone home a little bit earlier, but I think I've got other commitments here in London that I would like to sort of tie off. Regarding whether or not I will return for another season, that is, a conversation that is still ongoing. Some decisions need to be made, especially on my part and where my future plans lie at this juncture. So
are you saying that you may not stay if you've given the choice, or you want to explore your career elsewhere? Or would you still stay at Harlequins if they give you the opportunity to stay?
Well, regardless of whether I'm given the opportunity or not, I have to go home. We are looking to prepare for the Global WXV, in which we are in Tier 2, which we'll be hosting in South Africa in October in Cape Town. So there'll be lots of activity around that in terms of camps and preparations with the Springbok women's team. So I think that when the time comes for me to make a decision as to whether or not I will rejoin the Harlequins or any other overseas club for that matter, I think that decision will be made at that particular time.
Okay, I'm going to give you a call. And I'm going to say, remember this conversation? Just give me a hint, England or not. Where are you going? Thank you so much, Babalwa Latsha. We didn't even get to speak about the Springboks, unfortunately. So all the best. I'm hoping that when you are in South Africa, you can come to studio and we can expand this conversation then.
It's been a pleasure. I'll hold you to that.
Okay,
Thank you
perfect. Thank you so much. Babalwa Latsha, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the Harlequins. That's the Harlequins props.